Rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, as-salatu was-salam ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem, and this is the BAK Show, where we're going to discuss some things which are important to you and to the Muslims, the Muslim Ummah at large. Of course, I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and we are here to discuss some important issues that have been taking place here in Syria. Brothers and sisters, as you know or should know, Suwaydaa, the situation there, is in a very bad condition. Why? It's in bad condition because basically Suwaydaa has been lost. There is virtually no government presence inside of the governorate of Suwaydaa, and it has fallen into the hands of the Israeli backed militia forces of Hikmat al Hajri. Um, Now, this comes on the heels after a major filling in, loading in of response from the tribesmen from around the country in huge numbers. And after they'd taken territory and then turned it over to the state security services, and then it ended up back in the hands of Hajri. There have been some agreements which have taken place. Most of the details of those agreements have not been made public, and all of the details. So we're not 100% sure exactly what those agreements basically were. But one thing does remain, that the forces that are loyal to Abu Muhammad Jolani or Ahmed Shara or are on the outskirts of the Suwaydat province and are not on the inside controlling the territory in the city and in the countryside. That is an established fact on the ground. In addition to that, there's been a lot of aid which has been going in to the Suwaydat area, into the Druze communities, and the Bedouin tribes and their families. They left Suwaydat and are in Dara, which is a governorate which is right next to Suwaydat. And there are like dozens of schools which are full of refugees that escaped the situation and living under the Israeli-backed Druze militia forces loyal to Hajri. Now, one of the problems here is that the Israeli flag, I'm going to say this again to make sure that everybody understands that, the Israeli flag was raised several times in Suwaydat. The most recent time was on this past Jumu'ah, wherein there was a rally and the Israeli flag was raised. Now, this is problematic for a lot of different reasons, but you've got to understand something. This Hajri individual, he openly comes out and he says that we want to be a part of greater Israel. I want to say this again. He comes out publicly and says, we want to be part of greater Israel. They want to be a part of in Tel Aviv's orbit. Now, I want you to all understand something. Now, while this Hikmat Hajri is a Druze leader, he is not the leader of the Druze people. There are a lot of different factions and schools of thought amongst the Druze community. But one thing is for sure, he definitely has sway and he definitely controls the weapons. As you can imagine, the Suwaydat is on the same border with Israel, so weapons freely flow back and forth across the border because the border is not policed by Ahmed Shara's forces in Damascus. This is a major, major issue because the only thing that's left is Dara from the southern provinces. There are three southern provinces. We're talking about Kunitra, Dara, and Suwaydat. Basically, it would take a very minimal force to take Dara, in which case everything south of the Damascus countryside would be totally lost to the Israelis. I'm going to say that again. If that were to happen, everything south of the countryside of Damascus would be lost to the Israelis. Let that sink in. That's how dire the situation is here right now. Now, today, the Amin al Am, or the security forces here in Syria, were attacked in in an ambush style near Tel Hadid, that's in the Suwaydaa province on the outskirts. So there's a lot of unrest here, but one thing is sure, that Hajri believes that he holds all the cards. He's got the Israelis backing him. You've got Israeli drones and warplanes that patrol the skies from time to time, and it's a difficult situation. Now, I want to let everybody know before we go on, you can send in your questions, your comments, and or your concerns, and we'll read them here, and we'll do our best to. If we don't know the answer, we'll try to get it for you. Okay. I want to move on into Gaza. Gaza, as you know, has been under a draconian genocide, which has been taking place there. And I saw some wild stuff, man. The French Macron. Okay, he decided that he was going to recognize Palestine as a country, as a legitimate state. So, what does that mean? What does that do for the people on the ground exactly? Now, all that is, don't fall for this stuff, brothers and sisters. All this is theater, just so that they could say, well, we were trying to do something. We weren't complicit in the genocide. We were trying to do something. It means nothing. It's like two dead cockroaches in the bottom of a volcano, as one brother I used to know used to say that, because it doesn't stop the genocide. If you're not providing any type of weaponry or something like that, even your own force, to stop the killings, then you're basically not doing anything. This recognition of the palace of Palestine is nothing more than symbolic. Nothing more than symbolic. And to top all of that off, now Macron comes and he says that we in September at the United Nations gathering, we are going to recognize Palestine if Hamas demilitarizes, if the Palestinians recognize Israel as a state. Okay, now you add in all of this conditions onto it. It's almost like, it's like, don't you see what's happening here? There's a genocide going on, and tens of thousands of people have been killed. And don't follow the numbers, brothers and sisters. Let me explain these numbers. When it says 60,000 Palestinians have been killed, what they mean is that there are 60,000 documented Palestinians which have been killed, and so many thousands of children. What does that mean? That means that these individuals were brought into a medical facility and they were recorded as being killed. That's only a portion of those who have been who've been killed. The reality of the situation is that many, not many, most of the people who've been killed in these airstrikes and artillery bombings and shootings and such like that, when their families pull them out of the rubble, they're already dead. What's the point of bringing them to the hospital? In which case, it's not recorded. It was the same situation here in Syria. The numbers in Syria for the war were downplayed down to 400,000. It's more than a million killed, because most of the people were killed never actually brought their loved ones who were already dead to the hospitals. Even the hospitals would say, if the person is dead, don't bring them here. We're overwhelmed with casualties and we can't do anything for the dead. So I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, this idea that the Palestinians, that they've only been like 60,000 killed, this is bogus. This is fake. This is false. Don't understand the numbers. I'm not going to tell you that it's a fake number, but it's not real. And that's the reality of the situation. When you go to all of these other countries and they're talking about they're going to recognize Palestine and stuff like that, what does that do, guys? Talk to me. Maybe I'm missing something here, but it doesn't change anything on the ground. Now you've got Donald Trump. He sent his Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, into Gaza, where he went to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to check it out. Of course, everything is spick and span and ain't nothing going on. But even while that was going on, there was still shootings that were taking place. That's got to show you how sick this whole thing actually is. Shootings continue to take place, but Steve Witkoff and the Israeli ambassador, I'm sorry, the American ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, they went together. These are two staunch allies of Israel. And so they go, they look around, yeah, that looks like it's okay and all. Then they go to visit the families of those prisoners, those who've been held prisoner. Okay. First thing is that wait a minute, you went to Gaza. You didn't visit any of the Gazan families who have loved ones who've been languishing in prisons in the Israeli territories under the administrative detention, or in other words, they're able to legally lock them up, Palestinians, for indefinite periods of time. And it escapes me now, but I think it's every 2 months or 6 months, they have to go back to court and they can get an extension. That extension can go on indefinitely. There are detainees who've been in Israeli prisons for 8 years. That's 8 years without charge. And of course, if there's no charge, there can't be a trial. So the point that I'm making here, brothers and sisters, why didn't Steve Witkoff go and visit families in Gaza? They're the ones that are suffering from the genocide. And in addition to that, images of one of the emaciated uh, uh, detainees that Hamas has been holding since October 7th, 2023, have emerged. Images which are not pretty. He has lost a tremendous amount of weight and he looks as thin as other Palestinians. Now, some, uh, I guess you would call them pundits or something or other, Israeli supporters have been saying, look at these barbarians, they refuse to feed them. But alhamdulillah, there are enough people out there on social media that blasted people who are making these claims. What are the prisoners supposed to eat if the children of the fighters, the children, the families of the fighters don't even have food to eat? What the heck are they doing giving food to the prisoner that their families and themselves they don't even have? So, brothers and sisters, it's the situation in Gaza is such a telltale thing because it just exposed so many people for being charlatans. It also exposed people for being a part of the Arab Zionist project, which I charge the United Arab Emirates for being for. Um, they are, I mean, when you look at the UAE backed Twitter accounts and such like that, like Amjad Taha and several others, they never ever say anything uh, about the Gaza suffering ever. All of their talk is always about Ikhwan and Muslimin. The Muslim Brotherhood is so evil, and look at these nice Israelis, and look what they've done to them, and such like that. That is United Arab Emirates policy. That is UAE policy. These are paid people to push that narrative in English. So, brothers and sisters, we have to be extremely careful, and scrutinize, some of these people because we don't always know what their agenda is. But how somebody's going to wear Emirati attire wearing is looking just like an Arab, which is the point. They want to show that we're the good Arabs. We're the Arabs that want to help the Israelis. And they are pushing the line of this is all the fault of the Ikhwan Muslimin. They attacked the the Israelis on October 7th. They bought this on the Palestinian people. Blah 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 blah. So this is the situation uh, uh, in Gaza. Now we're going to go back to Syria. And if you want to send in any questions or comments, you can feel free to do that now. But let's go back to Syria. Syria, there was a young man whose name was Yusuf Labad. Now, this Yusuf, for the last 13 years, he was in Germany. After the country was liberated, he had a desire to return back to Syria. Well, he did that several days ago. He'd been back in Syria for 2 days. He went down to the Umayyad Masjid in Damascus, the Umayyad Masjid in Damascus, and he was uh, asked to leave the masjid by the state security forces. He resisted and he was forcibly removed from the masjid. He was taken to a police station and then subsequently he was dead with torture marks all over his body. I'm going to say that again. He was taken to a police station and and then he didn't end up dead. He was killed under torture. Now, I've spoken a lot about torture and such like that, and some people just think these are isolated incidents. There was some form of apology and a promise that was going to there's going to be a follow-up investigation. They're going to be following this thing up so that we can find out who did this, and they're going to be held accountable under the law. I'm going to tell you something. Torture here in Syria under the new administration is just like it was back in Idlib. It's still there. It never left. And it only spilled out into the public spaces because the detainee was killed. If he wasn't killed, you would never have heard about the torture that he had to endure or had to face. That's the reality of the situation. Torture was rampant in Idlib under Abu Muhammad Jolani's control when it was a much smaller venue and much easier to follow. I can't fool you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to give it to you straight, brothers and sisters, because I love you too much not to give it to you straight. Torture was rampant in Idlib. And yes, people died under torture. And yes, some of them were buried in unmarked graves in Idlib. And the same thing is happening again. So I'm saying, brothers and sisters, this transition from Bashar al-Assad, it's not an exact science. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, there's been no benefit and Bashar was better. That's not the topic. The topic, I mean, we're adults, we're not kids. The topic is not whether Bashar was better or worse. The issue here is that after 1 million people are dead, half the population has been displaced. The economy, if you want to call it that, is totally shattered. We're looking for something better than this. We didn't come this far just to say, okay, well, we're going to accept torture. We're going to accept this or whatever because you were able to get Donald Trump to lift some sanctions. Well, what did that do? That didn't do anything for the Syrian people. Let me give it to you straight, brothers and sisters. The Syrian pound or the Syrian lira was trading at approximately 9,500 at the time of the announcement of Donald Trump lifting the sanctions. That was what, 2 months ago, 2.5, 2 to 3 months ago? Okay. I'd say 2.5 months ago. It traded today for 10,250 lira to the dollar. There hasn't been any change. Now, I said at that time that the lifting of the sanctions, even though they're 180-day waiver lifting of the sanctions, it's not lifting of the sanctions wherein it's like, there's the sanctions are gone. No, every 180 days, you have to go back and get a waiver to continue for the sanctions to be lifted. All that is a means of control. That's exactly what that is, because they want to control here in Syria. So I'm talking about the Americans. So if they give Ahmed al-Shara a job, or they give some body here a job, it makes it very difficult for them to say no. Now, if we go back to Medina al-Bab, al-Bab city was the site wherein U.S. Special Forces and Ahmed al-Shara's forces came together. How that happened, I'm sure I have no idea, and they pulled off an operation. The heck are these two doing working together? You've got the United States of America, which is the Firaun of our time, maybe worse because they're actually controlling more territory than Firaun ever was. And they are arming and bankrolling and giving political cover to a genocide, which is taking place on TV in front of everybody's eyes. Now, when you see that happening, how is it that these guys got to work with Ahmed Shara's people? How do you put those two together? Well, the reality of the situation is that can't tell them no. I'm not sure if he wanted to tell them no, but this is the reality now. The result of the operation, there were helicopters, drones, troops that were lowered from ropes right into Al-Bab city. And you had the security forces, which were cordoning off the area and such like that. They were working together. Okay, what was the result? The result was one ISIS big shot, as was called. I've never heard of him before. And his two sons were killed in the raid, and some others were arrested. That's something that Ahmed Shara's people could have done. Why are the Americans operating here in Syria? That's the issue that that needs to be addressed. That's not being addressed, and it's not even being talked about in the government circles. And Allah Subhanahu wa Taala knows best. Okay, so if you have any questions, we can entertain those now. But before we do, I would like to ask everybody to take a look at our crowdfunding page. That's medina.com/voices of truth, wherein we are documenting the atrocities which were covered by Bashar al-Assad. And it's so timely now, because when you can see the atrocities that took place during his time, you can see the steps that are going leading up to some of the consequences that took place under his rule. Please, guys, take a look at our crowdfunding page. Do us a solid. If you can help us out with $50, $100, $10, whatever it is, it would be a great service to us. It would be an opportunity to give a voice to the voiceless, people who had no opportunity to tell their story ever. All of a sudden now they have an opportunity to help you to understand what they went through. Just before we take any questions that might be there, I'm going to uh, play one video clip for you. Take a look at this woman. This is what we're doing with our project. Take a look and see what she has to say. يعني شو صار إلى أسنانك بالضبط؟
وقت اللي عذبوني، وقت اللي يسألوني سؤال وما بدي أجاوب عليه يقلعوا لي كل سن ببنسة.
بالبنسل. نعم. وكم أسنان أم شيخ؟
شلعوا لي كل القداميات من تحت من عدد ضرسين، وشلعوا لي 3 من فوق. أثناء تسببوا لي مرض، دخلوني مشفى العسكري بحماه، ضليت فيه 9 أيام.
وما كان المرض؟
مرض النزف من لست أسناني.
نعم. وعند الكهرباء كان يكهربك كيف هذا كان؟
يقعدوني على كرسي يسألوني أسئلة بدهم ياني أجاوب عليها وأنا ماني قادرة أجاوب عليها ولأنها ما أنا موجودة عندي، يحطوا لي جرية بالمي ويضربوا الكهرباء.
This is the situation that took place under Bashar al-Assad. We need to make sure this doesn't happen again. And you can help us to do that by documenting what took place during his watch. And that empowers the people who underwent the severe torture, lost loved ones, and those who uh, just disappeared into Bashar al-Assad's dungeons. This is your opportunity, brothers and sisters, to help us to document this. I am heading this project. You can find out about it, more about it at medina.com/voices of truth. Medina.com/voices of truth. Okay, brothers and sisters, we're going to leave it here. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakum Allah khair. Do let us know in the comments what you think, because this is an ummah thing. If we're going to just try to solve these issues here from Syria, it's just not going to happen. Jazakum Allah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.